Okay, this is Andrew, and we're back on the GNS3 with our switch, and our switch is loaded up here. So I've found a lab online here, and we're going to take a look at working this lab. And what this is this is the basic configurations that you want to do initially to the switch. As soon as when you take it out of the box and initially configure it, of course this is just very basic configurations, but it's stuff that's going to be on. These are the things we're going to be tested on the ICND1 exam. So these are the things we're going to take a look at. Okay, so if you've never been into Cisco environment, we're going to work on, just bear with me, we're going to work on it, and you'll pick it up as you go along. It's not that difficult. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is go to configure terminal, which you can do that shortcut command. You'll see that as we go along. So in this mode, I can do configurations, right? So the first thing I'm going to do, if you look over here, is add a host name to the local switch. Well, up here it's given the lab instructions. So use a local laptop to connect and configure the switch host name as local switch. So you can see here's the solution. So we're just gonna do the solution, and you'll just see exactly how to do it. Host name, but it wants all caps, local switch. Okay, I push enter. What happens? It changed to local switch. Got it? Pretty simple. All right, configure the message of the day as unauthorized access is forbidden. So we'll go ahead and do that. So you see this pound sign, and that means we have to be in this mode, which is the configuration mode right here. You'll start picking up modes as we go along. It's not difficult. Just bear with me at the moment, and we're going to start. We'll just start working through them. All right, so I want to do banner. Take my caps off, and that's going to be B. Message of the day. Now I can do any sign I use here is, and you do kind of need to know this, but at this moment we're not going to worry about it, but any sign I use here, it's like quotations marks. Okay, anything within these quotation marks is what's going to be printed, when the screen message is sent. Unauthorized access is. Okay, so now I just complete it. It's like I'm completing the quotation mark. Okay, so the message of the banner of the day should be taken. Message of the day. All right, so next it says configure the passwords for privilege mode as Cisco. The password must be MD5 encrypted. Okay, so there's two passwords you can put on, and one is just a non-encrypted password, and the other is an encrypted password. When you do enable secret, it's going to give you, we'll just do Cisco. When you do enable secret, it's going to encrypt the password, and we'll take a look at that, okay? In fact, let's go ahead and do that right now. I'm going to pause it while it's building that configuration. Okay, it looks like it built the configuration, running configuration. You can see here, enable secret 5. So the running configuration is actually, we're going to discuss this more, how everything's structured and ROM and such later, but for the moment we're just getting into it. And you can see here the running configuration is actually like the set of instructions that are on the machine. So this is the overall set of instructions. This is really the configuration that it is running. Okay, so what's in here is what the machine sees. Here's the enable secret password. It's a #5. That's the password we just put on, and you can't see it here because that's exactly what he's saying over here when he said to configure the password encryption. So by doing enable secret Cisco, we put on the #5 secret password. Okay, So then you can see the rest of the configuration here. At the moment, we're not looking at it. But I just wanted you to see the password that we put on. So now he wants to do configure password encryption. So a lot of these we'll just have to work through, and then you'll see more later, as you're not going to get it all immediately. But basically, service password encryption. We'll do an encryption, kind of lightweight encryption to everything that's not actually encrypted already. So we'll take a look at that. We'll just go ahead and do it. Okay, so we put it in. So now what we want to do is configure the console access. So the console access, if you remember, is you plug your PC into the console port on the switch in the back of the switch. So that's actually the console port. So any line console 0 configurations we put on, watch this. Okay, you ready? Line console 0. Now you see it did to configure line. So we're actually configuring the console port line. So whatever we put on here is actually being put on the console port. So now I want to put a password on the console port. So I'm just going to say password CISCO. He did Cisco console. I'm going to use all Cisco passwords so I don't forget which one I used. Now we're going to go ahead and do the login sync. You might not understand what that means now, but we're going to take a look at it later. Just go ahead and do, if you're following along, just go ahead and do the login synchronous. We'll talk about it later. Then you want to do login. History size, you can do that. And exec timeout. He put 645. Okay, good. So now we configured the console line, and we'll go back and talk about the rest of these later. But I just want you to start getting used to the. I want to hurry through it so we can get all this in. Okay, so now we don't want to do the telnet lines. So these are the virtual terminal lines, things like telnet, secure shell, and what we want to do here is configure the virtual terminal lines. So, but at this moment, we're in the console line, so we need to exit, which is actually we go back up one layer. So we went out of the console line into the configure terminal. Now what we want to do is the virtual terminal lines. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means later, but we have to start somewhere. So we're going to configure virtual terminals 0 through 15, and that's how many there are, is 16. So again, we're going to do this mysterious executive timeout 820. Okay, what I can do is I can just do the up arrow and change the C. The up arrow just brings it back up. So exec timeout 820. Now we're putting a password on the actual virtual terminals. And again, I'm just going to do Cisco. I don't want to get locked out. And we're going to do login synchronous. I'll show you later exactly what this is, but for now, just go ahead and put it in. And then we're going to do login. History size. Do 15. Okay, great. So the next thing is we want to configure an IP address. IP address, you say? This is a layer 2 device. Why does it have an IP address? Good question. Glad you asked. Okay, well, for management to be able to access this machine from like a PC, if you want to access through the virtual terminal, or then you need to have an IP address to be able to access the machine. So it's really basically like a management address. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the interface mode, and this is going to be VLAN 1. So now you can see I went back up into the config mode from my virtual terminal lines, and then I went down into the interface mode. So now that I'm in the interface mode, I'm actually in interface VLAN 1 mode, and we'll talk about that later. Don't get too confused. This is an introduction, and these are just, you know, basic configurations you have to do when you initially start a switch. So they're saying 192. Now you should remember this from our discussion on addresses. Okay, so that's an IP address. Now comes the tricky thing. It's 255.255.255.0. We'll talk about that later too, but that's a subnet mask. Okay, and we're done with that. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to stop the video. We'll come back and talk a little bit more about each one of these configurations in the next video. Thank you.